Hello, and welcome back to the Wallfacer podcast. Today we've got two guests, Ivo and Dimo, co-founders of Ambire and heyAura. These two have been building together for about a decade. They started with AdEx back in 2017, one of the first decentralized ad networks on Ethereum. And today our focus on Ambire, a smart account wallet that I would say a lot of serious on-chain people have started migrating to, most of my team included, and heyAura, an AI assistant that lives inside your wallet to be able to take actions on all of your positions. We're excited to be working with them on heyAura. And hey, guys, welcome to the pod.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, I mean, something that feels pretty clear just from my, my research and my background there is just how long you guys have both been working together and then how long you've been working on crypto as well. And I'm actually not super familiar with AdEx, but I guess that is the first thing that you guys began on back in 2017. So I'm curious, maybe even how you guys met and how that original project came to be.
Actually, we've been working from before that even, and we
Yeah, like
co-founded
13 years, something like that.
We co-founded another product called Stremio, which is pretty huge now. It's a video streaming media center. So then AdEx was born kind of out of necessity because we were looking for ways to monetize Stremio. But the way we met is that I was still in high school, by the way. So I was giving a talk in the technical university in the town next to me, and Dimo came to the talk. So that's pretty much how we met.
Yeah, actually, it was more exciting because Ivo stepped behind the microphone. It said something like, "I will talk about this framework, and this framework. And if you don't know this technology and that technology, probably this." Conversation won't be uninterested of you. And I was like, oh wow, and some people stood and go. It was pretty impressive, and he gave a very good talk about mobile frameworks back then. Yeah, I knew this guy is special,
Wow, very, very interesting story. And I guess even from Stremio to AdEx, like what gave you the thought that crypto was the place to kind of build this ad network out at first, I don't know, some more traditional channel, or maybe it didn't even start as crypto and that was something that came later.
We actually started with Stremio, and when we started monetizing Stremio, at some point we realized that all of the traditional ad industry is pretty corrupt, or it works in a way that is not very favorable for you, And back then in 2000, I think in 16, like the beginning of 2016, we have already started researching Ethereum, and we've been in crypto like before that, like probably mid 2013 Evo, I think 2012 Evo, something like that, right? And
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, and at some point we found out about smart contracts, and when we realized what the possibilities were, we're like, oh wow, we should build our own ad network.
It really had to be crypto because really the problem that we were solving was transparency. So the real problem is how do we convince like all the sides in this industry that what they're seeing on the other end is correct and not being manipulated by a middle party. And you probably remember that this was the whole promise of Ethereum back then, and it still is. But back then it was much more vocal and much more pronounced. So yeah, it was like a match made in heaven in a way.
Yeah, it is. Just thinking back to that time, right? 2016, 2017, many of the apps that tried to port non-crypto native concepts onto blockchain definitely did struggle. Maybe it was largely based on still just the friction of doing things on chain. I'm wondering actually from your time building then, did that kind of inform ultimately what you've tried to do now with Ambire and like the, how kind of simplistic the wallet is, or what were the early frictions you had back at building?
Exactly. I think you pretty much hit the nail right on the head there, because the thing is that Ambire was also born out of necessity as a result of the development of AdEx, because we figured out pretty early on that there's no way for this thing to be successful and there's no way for it to grow if we don't manage to find a way to onboard marketers who have never touched an Ethereum wallet in their life. You probably remember even before MetaMask missed, but MetaMask was also like really difficult. So it was like, okay, you can sign up to our ad network as an advertiser, but first you need to install this browser extension, then you need to write down 12 words and never lose them. So that was absurd and it was never going to work. So yeah, that's why we built a smart wallet back then, probably one of the first smart wallets entirely. altogether. And this smart wallet was part of the AdEx product. So you could just sign up with an email and a password, and the platform will just let you in, create a wallet address for you in the background, etc., etc. So then in the DeFi summer, we figured out that it's best to spin this off into a separate company, since the value proposition is so much bigger than just onboarding ad tech people onto an ad platform.
Yeah, and also there were like not many good wallets back then, And one day we just decided that we should take the wallet out of AdEx and make Ambire.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hi, this is Ryan, your podcast host. This one's for the builders. If you're adding yield or DeFi capabilities to a wallet, exchange, neobank, or fintech app, Vaults.fyi is the API for it. One integration gets you market data, transaction payloads, and portfolio tracking across over 1,000 vaults on over 20 networks, trusted by companies like Kraken, Gauntlet, Jumper, Arbitrum, and many more. You can go from zero to a live earn experience in days. We handle the protocol complexity, and you earn revenue on the TVL that you drive. Check out the docs at docs.vaults.fyi. Links in the description. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, I'd still say today, obviously, all of the embedded wallets, I think, the dynamics and privies and all of these, I think have really changed how people think about what a wallet is. But certainly for more experienced or pro DeFi users, it still feels like the space is pretty open. I mean, if I were to even just kind of track my own usage, I think the first wallet I ever had was probably like a MyEther wallet with like a Trezor or something like that. Eventually moved over to MetaMask, safes, tons of mobile wallets I experiment with. And these days, up until very recently was Rabby, I think, has kind of become the pro wallet for quite some time. And I think recently it really feels like Ambire has stepped into that space now of just, there's so many more advanced capabilities. How have you even thought about building Ambire now as a standalone thing for DeFi pros? Or maybe I shouldn't even assume too much. Like, who is the user that you are most excited about today?
Great question. I really love your questions, by the way, because you're kind of providing like the perfect segue for the answers. So,
all right, maybe I'll shorten my questions.
so no. Actually, what I mean is like you're giving me a lot of points to grab onto. So first of all, embedded wallets, right? So you did say it as if they're already successful, but I think, like, no offense to them, like they're doing great, but I think the whole embedded wallet vision didn't play out as big as some VCs were thinking. And the reason for this, and we've been always been saying this, and we've always believed it, is that it kills the whole value proposition of Ethereum, right? Because you need to have this composable account which comprises of your on-chain identity, and you need to be able to reuse this on-chain identity seamlessly across different protocols. Otherwise, the whole reason Web3 is better than Web2 kind of falls apart, because think about it. How fantastic would it be if I am able to buy stocks on interactive brokers and then seamlessly get a loan of these stocks and then spend it from my credit card? This is like magic, right? And this is what Web3 does, but this is what Web2 doesn't do, because you don't have this shared cryptographic account that is tied to your specific identity and that only you can unlock, and you're unlocking cryptographically. So the whole value proposition of Web3 is based around having this composable, reusable account. So this is why I'm not super bullish on embedded. I think embedded is a great gateway drug, so to speak, or segue into a real account. But the whole point is that it should be like a single identity that you can essentially like sign in with Google or sign in with Apple, but for finances, but a financial one. So yeah, and who is the user? We started with this thesis that the user should be, especially for us, it should be someone who is already experienced. The reason for this is that all of the wallets that were built in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, like 99% of them, except Rabby and a few others, are built with the assumption of the next billion. But this next billion isn't happening, right? Like there is no inflow currently, retail users, this is not happening. And whoever is coming fresh into the industry usually first goes through the centralized exchanges. Even if they manage to get a real wallet eventually, they first go on a centralized exchange. So this whole thesis of the next billion, I think it was kind of early, and I think all of the wallets that tried to build like a ultra simple mobile experience did not really get that much traction. You can tell from the numbers because they're excluding the core audience that uses the protocols right here today. So yeah, we wanted to build for this core audience, and this thesis is really proving itself. You can see with the safe integration and with the hardware wallet integration, with all of the smart wallet features. Basically, people who are sort of on-chain all the time, those are the people who love Ambire the most. So yeah, chronically on-chain people. And eventually we're going to go to the next billion. We're going to do that. But the thing is, it has to be like a gradual build up. And at some point, the line will get bored.
Yeah, you raise a few interesting things there. And, actually, I would wonder about this too with the embedded wallets. I think one of the things I definitely have found that they do is, and you correct me if you feel differently, but I feel like in Web 2, everything sort of lives around the account, right? You have your account at Robinhood, your account at Fidelity, your account at Vanguard. In crypto, everything lives around the wallet, right? You have a wallet that's then portable to all of these things, kind of as you said. And I guess what the embedded wallets do is they actually bring that Web 2 philosophy to crypto, which is to say, hey, now you will have an account at all of these things. And maybe there's some interoperability between them. Maybe you have like a central view with your email, whatever, but it's a change in how to think about that, I suppose. But I think one of the things I've seen with some of the embedded wallet providers lately has just been the business models have adapted as they're, I think, getting more mature, and the solutions just feel very expensive, I think is how I feel looking at some of them now.
In what way? In what way
Well,
expensive?
I believe most of them have kind of moved towards a model now where they're charging the like sort of minimum amount of transaction volume per month. So like in a basic tier, maybe you get $1 million worth of transactions per month, but that's pretty low in many cases, or charging per signatures or MAUs and sort of the lower of each of these. And so I just feel also as if we went from a place where these were all early stage startups and, we're kind of giving away cheaper versions of their product. And, now they're getting quite expensive. And I do wonder actually how once an app scales up on one of these things, at what point the wallet infrastructure becomes, a major or very significant cost.
It's an interesting point. Obviously, there will be a lot of undercutting and a lot of like price search and price discovery that happens with this. And it's a similar story with 4337 bundlers right now. So it's kind of a good thing that native account abstraction is coming and will kind of like settle this down. Because yeah, it's pretty unsustainable when you think about it. But yeah, they raised a lot of VC money, so they have to kind of reclaim it back. So I do understand. But yeah, it's obvious that this pricing is not sustainable for any consumer.
Yeah, I mean, so actually just riffing on that. So I think probably the point at which our team got most excited about Ambire was, I believe you were the first people to ship 7702 support.
Yeah, for hardware wallets.
Yes. What got you guys just so bullish on that? And I'd say today, adoption generally is still maybe a bit spotty in terms of people's usage, but I'm curious, what made you guys take that big bet?
First of all, let me like prefix this by saying that it's an incremental improvement. It's not a revolution. And this is one of the bigger problems of the account abstraction industry as a whole, that every single technical improvement that comes on chain is being viewed and marketed as a revolution. And all of the features that account abstraction ever promised and ever wanted to ship are being attributed to this particular EIP that's being shipped. So this is a huge marketing problem because you hype it up, and then when it gets delivered, things don't change overnight as you kind of hyped it up to be. So then people get disappointed and people get disillusioned. And this happened first with 4337, and then with 7702. And it's possibly going to happen again with native account abstraction, even though native account abstraction is a bit more than the others. But yeah, this is like the whole marketing problem. And it all stems from the fact that it's very difficult to explain in layman terms what exactly those EAPs do. So the reason we were so bullish is that we already supported all of those features, but 7702 allowed us to ship them to people with far less friction, because before that you have to have a basic account and a smart account. So if you want to use any of the smart features, you have to make a new account, which is a smart account. And this is like a very, very big point of friction because everyone wants to use their existing account. So it just creates confusion. And 7702 was the big unlock for us. It was the big revolution and the thing that actually allowed Ambire to grow, because by eliminating this complexity, we were now able to like provide the Ambire experience, so to speak, to unassuming people. So to the person who comes to Ambire and just imports their account and expects things to work, right? You expect things to work out of the box. Before that, imagine you had to import your account into Ambire, but all of the things that we marketed to you were not available. And for you to be able to use them, you have to now create a new account and potentially move your funds, which is like a big point of friction. So yeah, 7702 basically enabled our growth. So that's why we are so bullish on it. But in the grand scheme of things, it didn't enable anything that wasn't possible before it.
Yeah.
Same goes for 4337 to an extent, but 4337 didn't have the significance for our growth, 7702. And native account abstraction is going to be the next step because it's going to allow this out of the box for hardware wallets, because 7702 still kind of struggles with hardware wallets, even though it's supported in many cases, but the big hardware wallets struggle with it. And it's going to be on by default on all of the EOAs, so you won't even have to sign a delegation, which in Ambire, by the way, is seamless, but it's one step closer to what it should be.
Yeah, it was definitely a marketing thing. I mean, I remember back in 2019, 2018, when we started working on the wallet itself, people had no idea what account abstraction was. And with the same success was in 2022, 23, people had no idea what account abstraction was also. It became popular at some point. That was the whole thing. And it was like right there before that. And probably this is why Ethereum Foundation came to us, started working on the Kohaku project, which it's a very, very interesting topic. Like Nico and the guys, they were like, hey, we know what you guys were doing for quite some time. So let's work together.
Yeah, please share a bit more about that. I forgot to bring that up. I'd love to hear more about your work with the EF.
Yeah, so basically Kohaku is an initiative by the Ethereum Foundation based on Ambire. And the whole point of the initiative is originally it started, I would say 90% of it is a privacy initiative. So the whole point is that privacy should be default. Kind of like HTTPS became a de facto standard on the internet, and now you cannot even use HTTP websites. So yeah, the whole point there is that you will have on-chain privacy by default. It wouldn't be something viewed as criminal or viewed as something that should be sanctioned. But it does have sort of these adjacent projects to it. Like one of them is quantum resistance. Another one is account recovery or social recovery. So they are working on a lot of stuff, but the whole point is that you can think of it kind of like Ambire's experimental brother, so to speak, because all of the features that they are building, the whole point is that they would get adopted by the majority of wallets. They don't say, of course, Ambire, because that goes without saying. They do say, actually, Ambire is part of the Kohaku roadmap to the Ambire integration. I mean, what I mean is that they're not saying we were building this for Ambire. They are building this for the whole industry.
Yeah.
But Ambire is going to be the first wallet to launch with it. And hopefully by the time we launch, we are the biggest also. So yeah, the whole point is that they want these features to be adopted. They want privacy to be adopted. They want social recovery to be adopted, quantum resistance to be adopted. And yeah, it's doing pretty well. They've shipped a lot of things, and they've shipped them very nicely and successfully. And we've already adopted bits and pieces. Like one of the things that is going to launch very, very soon is light clients. So the ability to kind of verify the information that's coming from the RPC. This is one of the big pain points of Ethereum in general, that you have to be trusting the RPC. So yeah, and obviously Ambire was a very good fit for them for 3 reasons. One of them is being truly open source. The other one is being account abstraction native. And the other one is being privacy ready. What I mean is that Ambire minimizes the number of network requests that are being made by just using it. So it doesn't leak your information to a billion third-party providers like some of the big wallets do. I won't name any names, but everyone knows who I'm talking about. And yeah, we basically kind of leak your information only to our internal API, which then proxies it to other places without forwarding your information, obviously. But the cool thing, and we got asked this today on Twitter, is that you can opt out of our API even before any requests are made. So if you have a brand new installation, there is a button on the bottom called settings or customize or something like this. When you click it, you can opt out of any requests to us. So you can even disable the one thing that we still call. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, hopefully people realize what Kohaku is for the Ethereum ecosystem. It's pretty important project.
Yeah, I mean something that certainly stands out in that response, and just the focus on privacy and these things that I would say are very advanced features, right? Even opting out of sending any requests to you guys. It's just the user base you built for us. It's much more pro base. The other thing I guess you guys have done recently that maybe I mentioned before we started speaking or at the very beginning is this sort of new interface and way to interact with Safe. My co-founder was, hailing its praises on our Slack. I think he tweeted something very nice about it as well. I guess one, maybe just explain what it is for the listeners, but two, also, Safe is obviously a place that's got billions of assets of real institutional capital. Yeah, how do you think about winning those people over more? I find the trust to always be so difficult. But yeah, please share more.
Good question. So I would say that in terms of trust, we've built a reputation for ourselves over a long period of time. So this is something that's really important with wallets. And now we're finding that people with like tens of millions of assets are trusting the Ambire UI as their safe interface. And this is maybe a bit of a cognitive, being brutally honest about it. Maybe I'm not sure I should be, but the thing is people are having a much easier time trusting user interfaces than trusting smart contracts. The perfect example of this is Safe. Like everyone trusts Safe already, but people have no issue like importing their Safe into Ambire. Obviously, Ambire is really secure and it's built a reputation for itself, but it was much harder to convince people to use Ambire smart accounts than it is to convince them to use Safe with our UI. So yeah, that's pretty good for us. Anyway, so I should get back to talking about the feature itself. So it's really cool.
Before talking about this, can I interrupt you really quick?
Yeah.
So one of the biggest, I don't know if it's flex the right thing to say, but Vitalik is using Ambire for quite some time, and he was very excited about Safe implementation. And I remember Ivo sharing that he got really excited when he found out that we have this implementation. So it makes sense for people to be excited about it.
Yeah. Vitalik actually delegated to our 7702 implementation, but he is also a very big fan of using one out of n safes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the feature is amazing because personally, what I find the best thing about it is the dApp connection. Because with the Safe UI, with Safe Global, you cannot connect to any dApp arbitrarily. You have to abide by their catalog, and it's not really the best UX to have to have a dApp in an iframe and use a limited number of dApps, only the ones that do support their UI. So that's first of all the biggest advantage, that you can interact with any dApp with it. So that's a game changer.
It works very good. Very good.
Yeah. And actually, Rabi has this, but the way that Ambire beats it is that it has simulations which are built into the UI. So the cool thing about this is that if you have a transaction pending, you just open the Ambire UI and you see how the balances are gonna change just from the dashboard. You don't have to open the transaction preview. You don't have to go to Tenderly. You don't have to wait for the Tenderly simulation to pass. It's all built in, and it works on any network. And it works right out of the box. So that's another cool thing about it. I'm sure that most people can list a million things that are good about this, but just one more that we just shipped recently is the gas sponsorship, which is that if you have money deposited in your gas tank, your Safe transactions are going to be sponsored, so you don't need to have another wallet that has Ether to pay for them. So
amazing. Well, I have actually several more Ambire questions. I'd love to maybe at the end come back to actually what the business of a wallet is today. But at the beginning of your last answer, you said something that's kind of a perfect segue to heyAura. So you mentioned that today people are trusting front ends a lot more than they trust smart contracts. And I can understand that. I think the next big trust challenge people are working on is how do you get people to trust an agent or someone that is autonomously acting on your capital. I would love to understand where the original vision for heyAura came from and what you kind of see it building into or what you're building towards.
Well, the original, actually, we've been playing with AI for quite some time now. And even though we have launched heyAura recently, we have started playing with this in 2023, something like that. And what heyAura can provide is can take off the complexity of Web3 for users. I know that sounds broad, but so you can provide better security because you have you can provide a even better transaction simulation, like scam detection. That's very important. That can spot scams, bad deals, hidden risk, that kind of stuff. It can help with the complexity in terms of build transaction for you. It can schedule transactions. It can do a lot of things with all these native, like wallet native things that wallets usually do, and can make better DeFi strategies for assets, but that's like a separate topic. So the moment I saw like AI building a transaction, I was really amazed. That was probably 2 years ago, something like that. Yeah. So AI and wallets, they go hand by hand.
I was going to say, to add upon that, you can think of it as a complete, like turning the model right on its head, because the whole point of it is that if you have this agent between the user and the protocol, you no longer need protocol interfaces. You no longer need protocol discovery and like dApp catalogs and stuff like that, because the agent is going to do this for you. So if you put like the security check layer and the discovery layer into the agent, when you think about it, it's kind of it makes sense why AdEx turned into this, because the whole point of AdEx was like to have this marketplace of attention. So now you can put this marketplace of attention into the agent, but you're no longer like making it entirely based on who pays the most, but you're considering the user needs. You're considering what the user actually, what is their intent, what's the way to protect their assets from a security standpoint. So like the agent is kind of eliminating like so many things on the chain, and not actually on the blockchain, but on the supply chain, and kind of turning the model onto its head. And if this is built into a wallet, then better for the wallet. But the whole reason we haven't launched it into the wallet yet is exactly that it has to be like completely safe and completely secure, especially considering that Ambire has such a like security focused reputation. So this is also why we've been working on local AI to ensure that it's private as well.
Hi, this is Ryan, your podcast host. Our team built vaults.fyi. It's a single app for managing your DeFi positions across almost 100 protocols, including Aave, Morpho, Fluid, Lido, and many more. When you deposit, your funds go straight into the protocol. No wrappers, no middlemen. We prepare the transaction, you sign it, but we never hold your money. Once you're in, you can track your positions and returns across everything in one dashboard. If you've enjoyed this podcast at all, try it out at app.vaults.fyi. My DMs are open on X and Telegram, and I love when you reach out. Now, back to the show.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, most of the products that I've played around with, or teams that are building with our APIs, they tend to be maybe one of two things. One is some sort of chat-like interface where maybe you can point an agent at your wallet and it can give you recommendations, or you can deposit money into it, and I think most people doing stuff like that today are kind of doing it with a limited test amount. But the idea of connecting it to a wallet that has existing funds in it, I do think is much more powerful. I guess from a like actions perspective, do you imagine that people will be moving to a like smart session key enabled, place where they are just handing everything over and the agent's just kind of running constantly? Or will the agent kind of send suggestions and you can accept or reject them? Like, especially for your user base, what do you think is the ideal user experience there?
Good question, but what I wanna say right away is that what makes heyAura unique is specifically the tie with account abstraction, right? Because if you have programmable code on the account, you can allow agents to execute stuff safely. So this is the whole game changer, because as I said, every other product is a chat, and every other product has a separate wallet that you can fund, and this wallet can do stuff, and the agent has full access over it. But if you introduce this granular access that account abstraction allows, then the agent can run on your existing wallet, and then it becomes much more interesting. Whether people are going to do this anytime soon, I'm having a really tough time predicting, because obviously we are all super paranoid. Me personally also. So
Yeah, of course.
whether anyone is going to do this with real size, it's a matter of time. I'm sure someone will. That's why we're building it. But how much of a like mass market thing it's going to become, it's really hard to predict. Dimo, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, of course. I think Vitalik said something very cool some time ago. He said something like the agent will be like AI. The AI will be the agent, and the human will be behind the wheel. Something like that. So we won't be giving agents like the full control over the funds. I mean, of course, you're gonna have like autonomous payments. That is for sure. I mean, you're gonna have agentic payments that will be of course set by you, but I don't think anytime soon we're gonna let AI decide our full portfolio. Or we're gonna
agree.
have the approve button, something like that on like bigger things. Of course, we're gonna have like smaller amounts, like limit spendings up to $100, something like that. But talking about the big picture here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've touched on some of the challenges, trust, and I think trust kind of being the big one, and like almost auditability, and just how do you know it's doing the right thing? What do you think about some of these other areas, like for agents? I think part of the way that you guys are using our APIs through the product is for all of like market data, and I think for transaction like unsigned call data for all of the like DeFi protocol interactions, P&L tracking, things like that. What else are sort of things that are still challenges in building on-chain agents today that you would trust?
Well, like the big problems that we have, like in general, is malicious inputs, like prompt injections. This is very dangerous. Of course, the model should be local, and this definitely gives us some safeguard. But on-chain transactions, probably Ivo can cover this better.
Yeah, I just want to add that prompt injection is a big challenge, but it's a theoretical problem for now. So it's just something that we have to spend a lot of time protecting against. It's not something that's actually happening. So we haven't seen like a single attack in the wild so far, but obviously we have to be sure that if there is an attack, it's safe. And all of these agentic systems are really complicated on many different layers. So if you allow like malicious input at any point in the system from a tool call or something like this, it could be dangerous. We're obviously building all of those safeguards on all of the layers. For example, when the agent generates a transaction, you can still preview it in the Ambire UI, which has like zero AI classification and detection of the transaction. It's like pure simulation and pure like clear signing systems and etc. So you still have all of those layers of defense. So but I would say that I would actually go in a different direction and say that the most difficult part is identifying the biggest use cases, because if you ask people that they want to do everything and in reality they don't. So that's a really big pain point. So like we asked even internally in the team, we asked externally like what would be your perfect use case for heyAura, and we get like 5 different categories of results, all the way from building complicated DeFi transactions to actually security analysis of transactions, to actually analyzing on-chain data, analyzing whales, coming up with DeFi strategies. And in reality, almost nobody like actually follows through with these ambitions. Obviously, a lot of people are building polymarket bots, so that's something to consider. And the thing is, the market is in such a state that people don't really want to be that experimental. That's the thing. In theory, you do want to experiment, but in practice, people kind of sit on their hands. So I would say that this is the most difficult part.
Yeah, I guess just to hammer that home, I was at like Stripe event maybe a few months ago, and someone was on stage and they asked, who here has done an agentic payment? And like 2 of 200 hands went up. And then it was like, who thinks they're going to do one in the next 12 months? Everybody's hand goes up. And it's like, well, you can do them today, right? There's some big disconnect, I think, actually, of what people think these agentic systems, especially payments, are going to be versus where they are. That said, I have been using Agent Cash quite regularly. But I don't know if you've used that product at all, but it's interesting. But it feels almost like some sort of arbitrage of all of the services it gives you access to, maybe rather than like, I'm really excited about the agentic part of this. So unclear to me as well. But yeah, so jumping around a bit, I mean, when you're describing the way that people can use these agents, something I've been thinking about a lot is that they're almost a replacement, or they can theoretically be a replacement for the way that people talk about what a vault is today, right? A vault being this sort of on-chain asset management structure that you can use to allocate to other strategies, whether those are morpho markets or totally different things. And I've been kind of imagining like an agent that I can put money into the same way I might put money into a vault. But because, like, say, through our APIs, it has access to all of the DeFi strategies out there, all of these cross-chain transactions, all of these underlying morpho markets, it can then allocate across all of these like a manager would today. But, now that manager is just kind of your agent, essentially. Does that framing resonate at all? Like, is that something you guys have you've kind of thought about this as well, or?
Yeah, it does. And initially, we were also thinking about a direction into votes. So, like having the agent manage a vote of assets. And the thing is, there are some very distinct advantages and disadvantages of each approach. So, the advantage of the agent approach is that, first of all, it could be perfectly personalized, and second of all, you can still use the assets while they are in your wallet in many different ways. With vaults, you can theoretically still do it, but it's much harder. I'm sure you're aware. And then with vaults, you have the very significant advantage that they are kind of being not exactly manually, they could be agentic as well, but managed in a way that right now, right here today, someone who is an AI skeptic can still use it and sleep well. So that's one of the things. Then another thing is capital efficiency. So by managing all of the assets at the same time at once, you're potentially more efficient than like 1,000 different agents managing wallets for personal use. Yeah.
And agents are 24/7.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that's something I've also come across some teams trying to do, almost like sell to curators, kind of like agent infrastructure. But I think that the approach that you guys have just kind of laid out feels more or less skeuomorphic, right? Rather like this is kind of the new primitive that people can sort of begin to work with and sort of begin to build on as well. So I'm curious about coming back to the point you guys were making earlier that we kind of glossed over about like local models and trying to keep a lot of this, agentic flow on device. I guess I just personally haven't thought about that trade-off as much. Like what should people be thinking about? Like what is most important in that?
I would say the most important aspect is like not sending your intentions to an AI provider. Theoretically, at the moment, they don't really care, but it's basically order flow, right? And it's order flow at a potentially much more detailed, like much bigger level of detail, especially like if you're doing market research or you're building a very complicated transaction that could be front run. So yeah, and there's a lot of risks around that.
Yeah, and also if you look at it like this, you're having everything. Like if the engine is local, you're much more protected, like sandboxing and everything. Just imagine having your information on somebody else's server. It's like,
yeah, privacy is infectious, and it's kind of like hygiene. Like you could have like one lapse, and then this makes the entire work that you've been doing worthless, because all of the effort that we've put in Ambire to not like make random third-party calls and leak your data to a third party, it gets immediately undone if you have like a very deeply integrated agent that's not completely local, or at least doesn't have safeguards. There are obviously ways to safeguard even using remote agents. Like one thing that we've been working on is like opaque addresses. So like if I say I want to do this, I want to send money to this address, the AI itself doesn't know the address. So it just uses like an internal alias for it. And in that way, it protects your privacy to an extent. But yeah, the best thing to do is local model. And another thing you can do to avoid making the agent like completely stupid is have a local model coordinate and make two calls essentially to remote models for like complex reasoning. So yeah, there are ways to do this without like making compromises.
Yeah, and I know it's still very early for heyAura, but what are the top use cases you're seeing from people who have been using it, testing it, or even just internally? Like what have people been most excited about doing with it?
Good question, and it's really hard to tell because it's all over the place. Dimo, do you
I
have a
think
particular
people
answer
are
to this?
getting the most excited about the portfolio optimization.
Yeah.
Because right now crypto is all about, crypto is all about assets right now, and everybody is thinking about how to make the most of it. So when I'm talking with users, people are getting the most excited about that can make you more money. And the other thing is, of course, the security aspect, which is extremely important, because if you can prevent scam, if you can prevent like bad trades, or if let's say the AI can read the transactions really good, that's really, really important.
And I think, coming back to something even you guys said earlier about kind of, having, wanting to start with sort of the existing DeFi market that's here and then expand to the more mainstream market. I think you also kind of touch on something here, right? We can all try to come up with these grand things that people want to do with crypto and things on blockchains, but most of it comes down to, all right, how do we optimize our assets, get the best yield, or, have the best strategy to, capitalize on what's going to happen over the next few months. Yeah. Well, cool. So coming back, maybe just to wrap up a bit on Aura and then come back a little bit to Ambire, I think, what do you guys feel is, if we were to record another episode like a year from now, focused on heyAura, What do you think are the things that can happen in the next year that will, 10x, 100x the size of kind of what you're thinking it is today versus what unfortunately do you think could go wrong in maybe the broader market to slow down some of that growth? Like, what are the things you're thinking about there?
I believe
I would say the same. Yeah, go ahead.
I believe low risk actions will be more automated. I think that will be one of the things.
Say more. Like, what's an example of one of those low risk actions?
Like low
Just like a
risk.
simple auto rebalance of Aave to Morpho or Morpho to Aave?
Yes, you can. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That can be a good example. Also, like if you are paying for some subscription somewhere, you can definitely rely on agentic payments because let's say X402 is all about that. Like Pay AI, like these guys that we're working with right now. That kind of stuff, in my opinion. I don't know what the future will bring. Probably, let's say products like Votes FYI will also evolve, and then we're gonna do like more things. We're gonna give more tools, like more tools to the users, so they can make more money or be more flexible on their positions, something like that.
Yeah, my take in terms of what can go wrong is basically the thing that can go wrong the most is for nothing to change because the market is pretty conservative right now. So I think that this is the biggest thing that can go wrong. For the market to continue to be super conservative and careful and like basically DeFi summer to never return in any form.
Yeah, and about what can go wrong, my biggest fear is expensive mistakes,
Have we really seen any major agent scares? I'm trying to think. Like,
not yet, but you already explained why. Like nobody is using this stuff.
touche. Yeah, so coming back to Ambire, I'm so fascinated with the business of wallets because there's so many wallets out there, so many massive ones, like Safe secures, billions of assets, as we've already said. I don't know that they have a great business model that ties to, the safe infrastructure that exists today. Obviously, the hardware wallets have a completely different business, selling hardware products. And, I think they're all trying to figure out their software services as well. How do you guys think about the business of Ambire and what it means to, build that around the product?
Yeah. So basically, at the moment, the main revenue source is swaps, as with any other wallet. Honestly, my hot take here, and it's pretty hot, is that people are overthinking this. They're overthinking it in several ways, especially VCs. First of all, a very big challenge to this model is what would keep people from just opening any swap DApp that doesn't have this fee and circumventing the fee. And the thing is, I personally believe that the convenience is worth like some bips, and volume, with enough volume, those bips will be like a lot of money. And it's not only convenience, it's also security because people are already like very afraid.
Yeah.
And by giving you this ability to access a swap is 100% like certain that you're not going to get phished, you're not going to get wrecked in some other way. Like this is worth some intrinsic value. So this is one of the things. And then the other thing is the other way that they're overthinking it is like swaps are already like a proven use case of crypto. Everything is about swaps. Even you can think of every single thing like a subset of swaps. I wanna off-ramp swaps. I wanna spend money in real life swaps. I wanna fund my bank account swaps. I wanna bet on Polymarket and like buy a share of the World Cup like market. It's also a swap. Like even perps and derivatives. Like every single thing is like some sort of subset of swap. Yeah. That's all I have to say about this.
Yeah, and also there is, I believe, things that will change. Rand, you said something very interesting in the beginning. You said that wallets are the front end of Web3. And that is very, very important thing to be considered. And the better product you do, the more people you get on using your product, like you are in a good position here. And the other thing is that more things will come. So yeah, we don't know yet. Right now, swaps. Yeah, swaps looks like everything, but we don't know what's gonna happen in the next like 10 years or probably 15. So wallets are very important equation.
Regarding that, like it should be obvious to anyone that whoever is capturing the gateway will have many ways to monetize.
Yes, no doubt about that. I think if you have users, if you have flow, if you have AUM, right, those are proven ways to monetize. I guess, I mean, the challenge is, and again, like we with our front end as well, like we monetize through APIs, like we don't monetize through our front end at all. But I think still there, like our user base is pretty prosumer as well. And I do think those people are kind of the most sensitive when it comes to paying fees. Just, they have some of the sophistication, right? They have their own, maybe simulation infrastructure, whatever it may be. But I mean, I guess to that note, you guys are expanding to mobile as well, which is obviously much more retail focused. And then, yeah, I'm very curious to see how people are going to monetize agents as well, because I can imagine sort of a much more multifaceted and blended fee structure that can live in there, where because maybe these transactions are happening so often, you can have many smaller fees that, add up to something larger, whether those are swaps, whether those are AUM-based performance fees, like many different kind of small actions in there that can build up to a larger business.
Yeah, and the good thing about the AI industry is that people already know that it costs credit. So this is like a well-established business model, and it's like a well-established expectation to pay for it. This is something that obviously crypto didn't start with, right? So like there's no expectation to pay for any dApp or any wallet inherently. So
Yes.
that's a very big advantage. And obviously, you can, as we said, you can build many kind of strategies into it.
Well, guys, is there anything that I haven't asked about Ambire or heyAura that you think I should, or that you'd love to cover today?
Probably, but nothing is coming to mind.
Okay. All right, I did my job then.
Yeah, pretty much the same.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, again, I mean, as I said at the beginning, and I hope as anyone who makes it this far hears, we're huge fans of Ambire at Vaults.fyi, and we're very excited to be working with the heyAura team as well.
Yeah,
and so
we're very excited too.
Both.
Like we love Vaults. Like when you got on the Ambire, what was it? Like the space. Well, you were on a space, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I particularly got very excited because I was using Vaults and I was like, oh wow, we have Ryan, So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still so much our teams can do together, and we're very excited for that as well. So thanks everyone for listening. I'll include links to Ambire, heyAura, both of Dimo and Ivo in the show notes, so please do follow them. And once again, guys, thanks for the time.
Thanks for having us. It was a real pleasure.
My pleasure. Talk soon.
Thank you.
Yeah.